The night was calm, but inside the vast mansion of billionaire Adrian Cole, a storm was brewing. The flickering security cameras caught something that froze his heart. A grainy image of a woman, cradling his infant son, asleep on a park bench near the city's edge. The timestamp read 2:37 a.m. Adrian's chest tightened as he leaned closer to the monitor. The woman wasn't a stranger. It was her, his maid, the quiet one who rarely spoke, always kept her head down and never once complained no matter how exhausting the day was. Her name was Alara, and now she was gone, along with his baby. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more real, heart-touching stories to life. Hours earlier, Alara had been working late in the mansion, as she always did. The grand chandeliers sparkled above her as she quietly dusted the golden staircase. Her body ached from exhaustion, but her heart carried a heavier burden. She was new to the city, a single mother trying to rebuild her life after losing everything: her husband, her home, and her dreams. Adrian Cole's mansion wasn't just her workplace, it was her only lifeline. She worked tirelessly, often skipping meals, saving every penny to pay for her little boy's medicine. That evening, the rain had been relentless. Adrian had hosted a lavish party filled with laughter, champagne, and music. The guests admired his wealth, his charm, and his success. None of them knew that beneath his confident smile hid a man broken by grief. Adrian's wife, Emily, had passed away months ago during childbirth, leaving him with their newborn son, Ethan. Since then, he had buried himself in work, trying to fill the emptiness that echoed through his marble halls. Alara had grown attached to Ethan during her time in the mansion. She would often hum soft lullabies to him while Adrian was away, her gentle touch calming the crying baby. The bond between them deepened silently, one born from shared pain and loneliness. That night, as the party ended and the guests departed, Alara noticed Ethan's fever. His small forehead burned under her palm, and his cries grew weaker. Panic set in. She tried calling the driver, but no one answered. The storm had knocked out part of the power, and the house was eerily still. Adrian was nowhere to be found. He had left earlier for a business meeting. Alara made a desperate decision. She wrapped Ethan carefully in a blanket, slipped on her worn-out coat, and ran into the storm, hoping to find an open clinic. The rain soaked her completely, and her shoes squelched with every step. When she finally reached the hospital, the nurse told her the clinic couldn't treat the child without the father's documents or consent. Her tears mixed with the rain as she pleaded, but it was useless. With no other choice, she wandered through the empty streets, cradling Ethan against her chest to keep him warm. Her body trembled, her legs weak, and before long, exhaustion took over. She found an empty bench beneath a dim streetlight and sat down to rest for just a moment. She hummed softly to the baby, whispering prayers, but sleep claimed her. Hours later, that's where Adrian found her. When he received the alert from the security system that the housekeeper's GPS badge had left the estate, he was furious. In his mind, she had betrayed his trust, taken his child, and vanished. He ordered his driver to track the signal, his heart pounding with rage and fear. The car screeched to a halt at the park. And then he saw her, his son wrapped in Alara's arms, both of them drenched and shivering. For a moment, the world went silent. The image was so fragile, so raw, it made something inside him ache. He approached quietly, removing his coat, his hands trembling as he gently lifted Ethan from her arms. The baby stirred, a faint cry escaping his lips. Relief washed over Adrian, followed by confusion. He turned to Alara, who was barely conscious, her lips pale, her hands stiff from the cold. He didn't shout. He didn't demand answers. Instead, he picked her up, carried both of them into the car, and rushed to the hospital. At the hospital, the doctors worked quickly. Ethan's fever began to drop, and Alara was treated for exhaustion and mild hypothermia. As Adrian sat in the waiting room, the night's events played over in his mind like a haunting reel. He realized how easily he had judged her, how little he truly knew about the woman who had cared for his son as if he were her own. When Alara woke the next morning, she found herself in a clean hospital bed, sunlight filtering through the curtains. Her first thought was of Ethan. She sat up, panic flooding her eyes until she saw Adrian standing by the window, holding the baby in his arms. The moment their eyes met, tears filled hers. She tried to apologize, but he raised a hand, shaking his head gently. He had already spoken to the doctors, who told him everything. How she had carried the baby through the storm, how she had pleaded for help, how she had fainted from exhaustion. Adrian felt a lump in his throat as guilt crashed over him. For months he had been surrounded by luxury, yet blind to the silent kindness of the woman who had been saving his child every single day. In the days that followed, something shifted. Adrian insisted Alara stay in the mansion as a guest until she recovered. The other staff whispered, unsure why their employer was suddenly so gentle toward her. But Adrian didn't care. He began noticing things he had ignored before. The careful way she folded Ethan's clothes, the patience with which she soothed his cries, and the quiet strength that seemed to radiate from her no matter how hard life had been. One evening, Adrian found Alara standing by the nursery window, watching the sunset with Ethan in her arms. Her eyes glowed with love as she whispered softly to the baby. "He reminds me of my son," she said, when she noticed Adrian behind her. Her voice trembled as she told him her story, how her little boy had died of pneumonia 2 years ago because she couldn't afford the hospital bills, how she had come to the city to earn enough to give him the life he never had. Adrian listened in silence, his heart breaking with every word. In that moment, he saw her not as a maid but as a mother, a woman who had known pain deeper than his own. For the first time since Emily's death, Adrian felt something new, something that resembled hope. Weeks turned into months, and the mansion slowly transformed. The air, once cold and hollow, now carried laughter and warmth. Adrian spent more time at home, learning to be a father, guided often by Alara's quiet wisdom. She taught him small things, the right way to hold Ethan, how to calm his tears, how to see joy in the smallest moments. But the change wasn't just in him. Alara began to smile again, her eyes no longer burdened with fear. She started taking evening walks in the garden, humming to the flowers the way she once did to the baby. Adrian often watched her from afar, realizing that his world, once made of marble and glass, now felt alive because of her presence. One afternoon, Adrian's sister visited. She had always been skeptical of the help and quick to judge. "A maid?" she whispered sharply when Adrian introduced Alara. "She doesn't belong here, Adrian." But Adrian only smiled. "She does," he replied quietly. "She saved my son's life, and maybe she's saving mine too." Months later, on a breezy autumn morning, Alara packed her small suitcase. Her health had fully recovered, and she felt it was time to leave. She didn't want to overstay or be the cause of gossip. When she went to say goodbye, Adrian was in the garden playing with Ethan. He looked up and saw her standing by the gate, her bag in hand. A sadness filled his eyes as he walked toward her. "You're leaving?" he asked softly. She nodded. "You've done enough for me, sir. It's time I start over." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he handed Ethan to the nanny and turned back to her. "Alara," he said, his voice low, "you came into this house as a maid, but you became something much more. You brought light back into our lives. I don't want you to go." Her eyes widened, her breath catching. "Why?" she whispered. "Because," he said, pausing as emotion filled his throat, "I can't imagine this home without you. Neither can Ethan." The words broke the dam inside her. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she covered her face, overwhelmed. For years, she had lived with nothing. No love, no belonging, no hope. And now this man, this billionaire who once seemed so unreachable, was offering her the one thing she thought she'd lost forever: a family. A year later, the mansion was filled with laughter again. Not the artificial sound of parties, but the genuine joy of family. Alara sat in the garden, reading a story to Ethan while Adrian watched them from the balcony. The sunlight painted everything gold, and for once, his heart felt whole. He often thought back to that night, to the image of her sleeping on the bench, holding his child, protecting him even when she had nothing left to give. That moment changed everything. It reminded him that true wealth isn't measured by money or power, but by compassion, loyalty, and love. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional, life-changing stories like this. Before you go, we'd love to hear from you. Comment below and tell us, what would you have done if you were in Alara's place? Because sometimes it's the people we least expect who teach us what it truly means to love, to care, and to start over.